doing?
Very well, thank you.
That's good. Now it's time for Talk to the Hands. What are we talking about this morning?
Today we're going to talk about walking on eggshells.
Okay.
And really what I'm trying to do is, particularly with guys, I'm trying to, when they come to therapy, is actually explore the possibility of personal zero tolerance to being defensive and expressing anger. There's one thing that happens when a guy expresses anger. It actually creates fear in women, especially if they're intensely angry. Whereas when women are angry, how many of you guys get upset if your wife's really angry with you? I mean, are you afraid of her at that point?
Not afraid. I cower a little bit,
I am. My wife's stronger than I am, Hans.
Sorry, Hans, we're not working with you here. We're not working with you here.
You're not working with me. Anyway, in most situations, what I find is that when the guy's angry, it creates fear in women.
Yeah.
Whereas when women are angry, it doesn't create the same intensity of fear in the guys, and so women tend to feel.
What does it create in the guys, though?
Guys often get more agitated about women being highly critical of them. So they hear, if there's a sort of piercing criticism, that really sort of gets guys upset. But what I'm saying is that often what women have is that they can actually pick up that their husband's going to be angry, and they'll adjust. And some women will actually adjust to the point where they're actually very cautious about what they say, how they look, or what they do, because as soon as they sort of trigger off any more, they're actually afraid of triggering off any more anger, and so there's a major adjustment. And what I've come across is that some women can tell that their husbands are going to be upset. They've been away all day. By the way they drive up the driveway, close the door, put things down, and they pick up, husband's upset. And so they immediately adjust. And the kids often adjust around upset husbands, And they're very sensitive to that, actually. And so it's not really a nice place for your wife or your family to be if they know that, Dad, hubby's in a bad mood, and we've all got to sort of now take it easy, or they've got to try and keep the peace somehow. And what happens is that guys actually sometimes don't realise that they're actually doing that. And sometimes when I've explained that to guys, or the wife has felt free to explain that to them, they're actually surprised. Like they're actually going, "Oh, I didn't know, I was that bad. I mean, I know I'm a little bit grumpy, but when some guys are really grumpy, it has quite a negative effect on the household. And sometimes they can actually set the tone at that point." Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
So it is genuinely interesting, isn't it?
What can we do about that? I mean, how can we fix that? How can we address that?
Well, I've tried to address it at my place. So for me, for my personal relationship with my wife Jo, there's zero tolerance to me being angry to the point where she gets upset. So if she says things or does things that irritate me, I'll try and remain calm. So because what happens if you get upset, then the other person then they become a little bit more upset sometimes. They try and get rid of your upsetness, and the other person
it gets worse and worse.
He escalates. And sometimes it can happen actually in a nanosecond. And if your heart rate's over 100, you actually become irrational. It's pure emotion. You don't have any empathy. And so in some cases what they do, in therapy, they'll put heart rate monitors on a couple.
Wow.
Is that right?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so the worst time to go to therapy is after you've just hopped off a treadmill.
Yeah, you could say that. But what happens is that some people get so angry, the heart rate goes up to 100.
Wow.
And if it goes up to 100, you're flying, and you can no longer be empathetic to the other person.
Wow.
And that's when the expletives fly.
Amazing. So now, tell me,
it's full of so much interesting information, isn't it? I didn't know any of that.
Can you just stay here forever with us? Now, when we get into that point where you feel the emotion bubbling over and stuff. I mean, it's happened once in 17 years. Lie. But anyway, but we actually take time outs. So we say, okay, time out, and we call a time out, and then we make a time. We like to make a time, doesn't always happen, but we try and make a time then to come back and talk about it again when we're a little bit calmer. Is that a good way to maybe overcome that?
Yeah, that works with some couples, but with some people, if one person's upset and the other person removes themselves away from that, they'll feel rejected, and the intensity actually becomes more, and they'll actually pursue, and they'll actually get even more angry. And so the best thing to do is to actually say, just acknowledge the emotions. Look, you say, so what I say is, look, use soft start-up, word of endearment. Look, darling, we're both upset at this point. And you talk about the upsetness, and then you go back to the topic again. I mean, that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is, if one person is upset, you need to just validate the emotion. I can hear upset, I'm trying to understand, and you just let them talk. And if you let them talk without cutting in, or without trying to fix it, they'll actually get to a point when they're calm. And when they're calm, and they feel that you've understood them, then you can say something to them.
Yeah.
And same with guys. Sometimes guys get angry, and sometimes women just need to, look, this is upset, just stay with it for a while, try and talk about the anger, don't try and fix it. And then when people calm down, then you can then discuss the issue.
Dealing with it, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Hans, fantastic. You know what? I feel like we've got our own personal therapy session every Friday morning. This is great.
It's good for Scotty and my relationship.
Yeah, that's right.
Anger's, a fairly common part of what we do.
Yeah.
And
our heart rate is generally around 120 all morning.
Yeah, and clearly we're irrational all the time. So, Hans, we certainly don't mean to belittle what you've said today, and I love it. And this idea that the way I drive in the driveway, and the way I walk in the door, and the way I put things down on the table, will tell my family what sort of mood I'm in, and they adjust to me. That actually freaks me out just a little.
They are very sensitive. It's amazing. It can be
I'm going to stop and watch that now. I promise I will.
A look. And we do the same thing with our wives. Our wives will look at us in a certain way, and sometimes we know what's going to come before they even say the words. It's amazing how sensitive we can be.
Isn't that interesting?
To people's moods without them even saying a thing, and how quickly we do adjust, or smart people definitely adjust to it. You just try and adjust to it.
Thank you, Hans.
Thank you, Hans.
As always, brilliant stuff.